Hi, we present CharacterChat, our work on a system that supports writers in creating fictional characters using a chatbot. And the key idea is to use the chatbot both as a co-creative agent that supports the user in creating the fictional character and as the output of that interaction, that is, a representation of the created fictional character. The interaction starts with a greeting, an introduction by the bot, and a request to define the new character's name. Subsequently, the bot asks about attributes to define for the character. For each such attribute, the bot can explain the attribute and also provide concrete suggestions for values for this attribute. The user can trigger new such suggestions or accept one. Alternatively, the user could also freely enter anything for the attribute. All attributes defined in this way in the conversation are listed in the character view in the center. Later on, the user has switched to the open conversation mode, where they can freely chat with the character. The bot always replies with free suggestions. This gives the user more control over the generated text. The user can pin the bot's statement in the chat to save them on the pinboard view to the right, for example, for later inspiration. Next, we'll give you an overview of the implementation.
The implemented prototype was built as a Flask application in Python. It contains different libraries and it integrates the language model within our system. Additionally, it is responsible for the coordination of different components like the Dialogflow agent, the ConceptNet Web API, and the XML file. It also acts as the backend of our application and therefore it forms the interface to the frontend. For the guided conversation, we use a Google Dialogflow agent that is responsible for the intent recognition and the named entity recognition. To suggest attribute values for the user, the application also uses a knowledge graph called ConceptNet, and it triggers its web API and fills the returned value in the predefined answers by using the slot filling mechanism. Since the chatbot should perform in an open conversation without a predefined context, it was necessary to integrate a generative-based approach. For this feature, we used an existing project by Wolf et al., a GPT-1-based language model trained with dialogues and a short persona description, as you can see here, to learn to reflect the described personality in a conversation. We use this approach for our open conversation by filling the persona with the defined attributes from the guided conversation.
We informed and evaluated our system with 3 steps. We started with an online survey. This informed the first prototype version. This version was then used by 7 amateur writers. Based on the feedback, we refined the prototype, and the second version was then evaluated again. People created a character, were encouraged to think aloud, and we conducted interviews and logged their interactions with the system. Overall, the feedback showed that all writers were positive about getting ideas from the bot. Going from version 1 to version 2 improved the impression of a conversation, yet this was overall still limited. And the majority was positive about gaining a deeper understanding of the character achieved through the interaction with the bot. We also used the standard Creativity support index questionnaire, and the score also improved from version 1 to version 2. Most important for users was exploration and expressiveness, and the highest ratings were achieved in the categories enjoyment and results worth effort. For more results, please refer to the paper. Here we would like to highlight 3 design takeaways. So first, we should introduce clear pathways in the conversational UI to switch between modes that have different creative support roles. So we had this open conversation mode and the guided mode, and providing a clear pathway to switch from one to the other was important. Second, we found that even a simple conversation design can be inspiring for writers, for example, if targeted at these kind of one-word discoveries, such as with our attribute suggestions. And third, we should use interaction to address current NLP limitations for creative writing contexts. So for example, by introducing a selection of 3 suggested replies, the writers had a bit more control and influence here.